Hello, America, and around the world. You're listening to i-netradio.com. I'm Stephen Stimson, and this is The Right Kind of Politics with that committed conservative, Katya Belinsky. She tells you like no one else the ins and outs of Washington, the White House, and Heartland America. Topics that threaten this country and the American way of life. And now, here is Katya's co-host, James Tuthill, to tell us what's happening with Katya and America today.
Thank you, Steve, for the beautiful words. I'm Jim Tuthill, and this is Katya Belinsky, the committed conservative with the right kind of politics. And we're here on i-netradio.com, broadcasting from the Gold Coast of Florida, between the richest island in the world, Palm Beach, Florida, and Miami, the Magic City, and we're right in the middle in Deerfield Beach, Florida. Katya is here every Wednesday on i-netradio.com, starting at 1 p.m. New York and Miami time, and repeating at 4, 7, and 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This show is played 4 times on Wednesday because it's so damn good, and we want people all around the world in different time zones to hear it. Katya, how is my conservative Tea Party star today?
I am great, James, and hello to everybody.
Katya, you are literally in the center of the country. In terms of east and west, you're exactly in the center of the country. If you just went up to Kansas, you would be perfectly situated north, south, east, and west. But Austin is directly in the center of the country, east and west. It is the heartland of America. It is the conservative soul of America. You have Governor Rick Perry. You have Senator Cruz. And you have Senator Cornyn, who's pretty damn conservative himself, okay? And you are sitting right in the middle of conservative bedrock America. You are singing the values of America. You want to take back and get back the America that I grew up in, and God, I love you for it, Katya. God, I love you. Okay, I'm going to tell you a story because you sent me this story. At Duke University in 2006, there was a national scandal. And I know more about this scandal than most people because a black hooker accused a bunch of lacrosse players of rape, okay? And a lot of those lacrosse players came from Garden City, Long Island. I know that's up north, but Garden City, Long Island, New York. And they were fancy boys, pretty boys. And how do I know that? I lived in Garden City, Long Island, New York, okay? And it's one of the wealthiest towns in New York State. And everybody played lacrosse. We didn't play football. That was for vagabonds. And we didn't play baseball and basketball. We played lacrosse. That was for fancy guys. And so they became good lacrosse players, and they all went down to Duke from Garden City in Nassau County, Long Island. And they became lacrosse players. And anyway, Crystal Mangum, I don't think it's Magnum, I think it's Mangum. She's 34 now. She was about 26 at the time. She showed up at one of these lacrosse parties. She's black, she's a hooker. And she says that these lacrosse guys from Garden City, New York and Nassau County, one of the richest counties in America, raped her. After she went to the house, they had hired a stripper. What guys do is they want to have a party, they hire a stripper. They don't rape the stripper. They don't do anything to the stripper. She takes off her clothes, they give her $500, she goes home, they said, thank you, you do a great job. That's the way it works, okay? We don't rape the strippers, okay? At any rate, she said, those white boys raped me. And that made a hell of a good story because these weren't just white boys. These were fancy, white, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant, rich white boys. She said they raped me, okay? And she was going to North Carolina Central University, And I tried a case in Durham, North Carolina for the guy that built the only skyscraper in Durham. And I'm sitting there at the Marriott Hotel across the street from the skyscraper. And it was the North Carolina Central University Alumni Association. I was the only white guy at this thing. And it was funny because these guys, a lot of them had become lawyers. Some of them had become doctors. And they were hysterical. They were the funniest guys you've ever heard. All they did was tell joke after joke, and we all got along, okay? I didn't claim that there was any rape at that party, all right? We had a few beers, and we had a lot of fun, okay? And of course, I was there in Durham, where Duke University is, and that's where it was. So anyway, eventually, the lacrosse players got out of this. The reason is that they did DNA on her little vagina, and they did DNA, I guess, hair samples on the players, and they found out not one single lacrosse player's DNA was inside her vagina. In fact, it matched other men who they knew weren't exactly the best men in the world. Their semen was inside her vagina, okay? But the state attorney at that time went out and charged my little lacrosse players. And what he did was he put together a photo lineup. And he said, "Who raped you?" And everybody in the photo lineup was a lacrosse player. He didn't have anybody else. See, in a photo lineup, you have to bring in other types of people so that it's legitimate, okay? He only put in lacrosse players. How could they? He couldn't lose. She said, "That's him, that's him, that's him." They were all lacrosse players because those were the only ones in the lineup. They didn't mix in any other men. Listen to this. A defense motion, the defense lawyers said, the district attorney gave her a multiple choice test in which there were no wrong answers. She couldn't give a wrong answer. They were all from the team. Okay. Now, he had to get out of the case because he withheld the DNA evidence. He hokied up the photo lineup. He withdrew, and he was disbarred. And he had to give an apology and say, "I really tried to screw these white boys." And he was white. I never quite understood that. And in North Carolina, that's a pretty conservative place. They like voter suppression. They don't want those black guys voting too much. Now, this is the end of the story, and this is what you love about it. She went out and got 14 to 18 years in prison 2 days ago because she stabbed her boyfriend, and he was 46 at the time, Reginald Day. And now he's dead because he died of complications 10 days later. What happens is when you get stabbed, you get an infection from the metal, and he probably died from that, okay? This takes me to a bunch of stories, Katya. We got OJ. He says he didn't kill his wife, ex-wife, and he had another trial down here for road rage in Florida. He got out of that too. But eventually, they all commit a crime and they get caught. Then we get George Zimmerman. I know this is a twist. He says I didn't do anything wrong to Trayvon Martin. I never believed that. And now he's gone out and he's gotten himself into hot water. Okay? So you've got three people of color here, George Zimmerman, O.J. Simpson, and this lady. And they said we're innocent, but after a while, their little criminal minds come out. So, Katya, you sent me this story. What does this tell you about the state of the United States of America today?
It tells me that Al Sharpton and what's the other guy?
Jesse Jackson?
Yes, that Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson should be put in jail because when this woman accused the lacrosse players of rape, there was nobody who had a bigger mouth than Jesse Jackson and
by the way, Katya, Al Sharpton is a reverend. If you could please call him Reverend Al Sharpton.
I'm not going to call him reverend. He's an idiot. And I'm not calling him anything. He doesn't deserve to be called a human being.
Jesse Jackson's a reverend, too.
Yes, he is. And you know what? I'm Mary Magdalena. So if you could bend down and kiss my toes and, remove my frock, I would be really, really happy. You will have a divine intervention with me. So Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton are nothing but riot instigators. They did the same thing with O.J. Simpson. They did the same thing with Trayvon Martin, and they are nothing but people who try to destroy their own race. I personally am not a racist. I don't care if you're black or white. If you hurt somebody, you kill somebody, I don't care what color you are, what nationality you are, you deserve the result of your actions. These two people go out. They have absolutely no reason. They have no intelligence. They have nothing but fear mongering, and they hate white people, and they want to instigate riots. They want to instigate hatred between blacks and whites. So before any verdict or before anything is even resolved, they start this riot mongering and hatred between blacks and whites. The same thing with this woman. There was absolutely no evidence whatsoever at all before these young men were even their DNA was taken, or even before what happened. What really happened, nobody knew. Al Sharpton, with his big fat mouth, he is the biggest racist against whites and against his own people. Because if he wasn't a racist against whites and his own people, he would not act like that. He would not have come out and said these things about these young men. How come when Al Sharpton comes out against white people, he is not a racist? But if I come out and I say something against this woman who just stabbed her boyfriend and who lied and tried to get white, young men in trouble, I then am a racist. Why is there a double standard? Al Sharpton is not a racist when he talks against white people, but I'm a racist if I talk against black people when they commit a crime. This is Jesse Jackson is the same. They dwell on the insecurity of their own race and keeping them down underground. And as long as they keep black people down, they continually say the white people hate them, because that's the way that Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton can control their race. Well, let me tell you, that is terrible. And not only that, but what Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson did was really nail the coffin in this woman's incident, because of her and because of Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, maybe it would have turned out different. But because they made such a big hoopla, her boyfriend, she had sex with her boyfriend 5 times before she went to this lacrosse party. Not one boy ever touched her. I have 2 sons. You have a son. My kids go to an Ivy League school. Your son goes to an Ivy League school. How would you like it if your son was accused, as these 3 or whatever, how many in the newspaper it says 3 lacrosse players, that ruins their whole life. These kids went to an Ivy League school. They had to maintain a standard of learning. They were trying to make their parents proud. And what does Al Sharpton do? And Jesse Jackson? They without any remorse come in there and try to destroy these young men's lives, their parents' lives. Why? Because they're white, wealthy boys who abide by the law, who don't go like this new thing of coming up and hitting people and killing them with a slap in the face. That's because Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton have never done anything for the young black men to go to college. They have not set up a trust fund. They haven't asked them to make a school for these people and rehabilitate their race. Instead, they get much more action when they destroy young, white, wealthy family men's lives, even at the cost of a black person. That black woman, her life, she gave a bad name to all black women. If I was a black woman, I'd be on her ass. I would have said to Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, I'm a black woman. I'm not like that. I would never do that. You don't find intellectually educated black women doing these kind of things that these low-life people, whether they're black or white, do to destroy people who are trying to make a living or trying to get an education. Young men that were trying to make their parents proud. What does Jesse Jackson do and Al Sharpton? They try to destroy these families. For what? Why? Because their fathers and mothers worked really hard to get these kids to go to school. So they found this tramp, this prostitute, to destroy these men's lives. Well, what appalls me even more is the district attorney, who was so inept and did not care about his job, which his job was to be just a just ruler, or whatever you call them. He made an oath before God and everybody that he would uphold the law. And what did he do? He was bought by these segregationist people like Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton to make these young men look terrible. I would like to know, how would you like it if your son carried, or my son carried, that stigma for the rest of their lives, when these young men would never do that and respect black people and white people and respect the law? How would you like that?
Well, Katya, this is me, James Tuthill. My family came here in 1632. In 1637, another branch came. We started the oldest continuing church in the United States of America. It's in Hingham, Massachusetts. It's called Old Ship Church. And then we weren't happy there for various reasons, political and religious. And 4 years later, we sailed across Long Island Sound. And on October 20th, 1641, or October 21st, 1640, we founded what became English New York State. My grandfather, or many times removed, was the first civil officer in New York State. Okay. And lately, people have accused us, the English, the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, of being racist. So I retired from law. I was a pretty successful lawyer. And I retired. I had some money I could live on for a while. I'm running out of it. But I go up once a week to North Miami Elementary School, which is 99.9%. I don't say 100 just because I want to be accurate. Haitian kids. And I teach these Haitian kids. I'm a substitute teacher. And these kids are nice. They're respectful. They're polite. They're great one-on-one. Sure, all kids, when they're 7 and 8 years old, they get in a group. They're wild. They're crazy. They run around. They're nuts. But when you deal with them one-on-one, these are the nicest kids in the world.
James, what does this have to do with our thing?
Because we are not racists, okay? White Anglo-Saxon guys are not racists, all right? We're not. And we try to do a good job for everybody, and we respect other people. And you are correct that really racism has been turned on its head in this country, and Sharpton is the racist, and Jesse Jackson is the racist. But I'm going to tell you one thing. DNA evidence saved these guys because they were going down the drain until DNA came along. Now, I'm going to...
Well, wait a second. Their DNA right away disqualified them in every manner, shape, and form. Their DNA immediately said they had nothing to do with it. It was the DA that continuously went after them.
A white guy. A white guy.
Yes. Yes, but you know what? There's a lot of traitors. Caesar was a traitor. So there are lots of traitors. And so he was the Caesar in this place. We don't know who paid him. We don't know what affiliations he had. We don't know exactly what and where all this led him to. But it must have been profitable for him. And he must have had no integrity, because I don't care how people think about attorneys. There are attorneys that have integrity because they take an oath. And yes, there's crooked attorneys, there's crooked doctors, there's crooked teachers, there's crooked a lot of people. But we believe that if I hire you as an attorney, you have my best interests at heart. This district attorney was blatantly, how do you say, irresponsible to his job.
Unethical, we call him, unethical.
All right, he was unethical towards his job, towards his state, towards his country, towards his profession. He deserved to be disbarred. And if I was an attorney, I would have written him a letter. I would have never allowed him. I would have not only disbarred him, but disbarred him from the planet. So this man deserved everything he got, because he, how do you say this? He lowered your profession in people's eyes.
Well, my point was, not all white guys are bad. Not all white guys are racist. So let's move to the second point. Let's look at DNA from two different perspectives. In the O.J. Simpson case, Mr. Simpson's DNA was found at Nicole Simpson's house, the place of the murder. Then his DNA, again, was found, or her DNA was found at his house. It was on his clothing or somewhere else. So his DNA is at her place, her DNA is at his place. But yet, he was acquitted. Okay, DNA.
Well, she lived at his house. That's the problem. She stayed there. She was having an affair with that
Goldman. You think she had an affair with Goldman?
Yes. Oh, it was obvious. I know lots of people in Malibu that knew her, knew Goldman.
Oh, Katya, he was just a pizza delivery man or a kid working at an Italian restaurant, bringing her back her eyeglasses. He didn't want to get into her pants at 11, 11:30, 12 at night. Oh, Katya, how wrong you are. He was just trying to do a good deed and be a good Samaritan.
Yeah, well, that's why he was driving her Ferrari around, and
exactly, because she wanted to help a pizza delivery man
she wanted him to
get to his destinations quicker. That's why she gave him a Ferrari.
So that's why it was so difficult for them to distinguish the DNA, because she was there all the time at his house. Now, I do know that Mark Furman totally believed that O.J. Simpson killed her. Just between you and me, my own opinion, and I'm not an attorney, I'm not a scientist.
Katya, don't sell yourself short. You're smarter than any woman in the United States of America.
I believe he did kill his, I believe he did kill her. And
Who killed who?
I believe that O.J. Simpson did kill his wife, and I do believe he killed Goldman. My brother lived not very far from there.
In Brentwood?
Yes, and they were all friends. They all went out together, and they had a lot of dealings.
You have the most interesting family, Katya. I didn't even know you had a brother.
And so, anyway, they were all friendly, and he took care of all their finances. Anyway, it was very obvious that he really did kill his wife and Goldman.
Well, there are other reasons why I think O.J. was killed. Okay, but listen to this. O.J. then moved to Florida. Why did he move to Florida? Because Mr. Goldman got a huge judgment for wrongful death against OJ. And if you got a judgment against you, move to Florida because all your assets are exempt. Your house is exempt. And OJ gets a $350,000 a year pension from the NFL. Your pensions are exempt. If you're a deadbeat debtor and you're in trouble with creditors, move to Florida. Okay, I've been a Florida lawyer for 35 years. I've lived in Florida for 43 years. Come to Florida. This is utopia if you're a deadbeat. Okay. Anyway, he moved down here. He then moves to Miami, where I'm living now, and he goes into South Miami one day, and apparently some guy cut him off or something. He gets out of the car, threatens to kill the guy, and they got him for road rage, and they got him on a felony there too. And he was acquitted again. That's 2 acquittals where he probably was guilty. Then, finally, he goes out to Nevada. Somebody has his sports memorabilia up in a room in a casino. He says, that's my stuff. That's the only time OJ was probably right. They probably did steal his memorabilia, and they were selling it out of a hotel room in some casino. That's the only time in his life that OJ was on the side of right, truth, and justice. He then gets a gun, and he goes up to the room. Unfortunately, he did it in front of video cameras because in casinos, they have video cameras every single step of the way. He walked in, pulled the gun, said, give me back my stuff. That's what we call armed robbery. Even if it's your stuff and even if they stole it, you can't do that. You got to go to the cops and say, get me my stuff back. So the point of the moral of this story is eventually, Katya, these guys all cook their own goose. Their criminal minds come out, and they all get caught eventually. Truth and justice always prevail, Katya. Don't ever cheat. Cheaters always get caught, Katya. The good guys always win.
No, not always, but then that's for another show.
Now, in Russia, all the guys that stole the money after they went from communism to capitalism, they took all their money and came to Bal Harbor in Miami, okay? And they got more money than God, and that is true. The good guys sometimes don't always win. The bad guys win. Okay, now, we're going to go to the next DNA story. There's a guy named Morrison or something along those lines, and he goes into Williamson County, which is right above Austin, where Georgetown is, right in your neck of the woods. And he comes home one day, and his wife is dead. They charge him with the crime, and he goes to jail for 20 years. A big jail for murderers. And after 20 years, Barry Scheck comes down from New York City, and they find the woman's clothing, and they test it, and his DNA is not on the clothing. Okay? And they keep him in Texas. They say, we don't give a damn about DNA. Doesn't prove anything. A jury in Texas found him guilty. He's guilty. They leave him in jail for 6 more years. He's in jail for 26 years. Now, who was his lawyer in that case when he was convicted 26 years ago? None other than my son's lawyer in Austin, Texas. The biggest legal genius that ever lived. Okay. I'm not going to say his name. He was on 60 Minutes. Terrible. And this guy went to jail for 26 years. But Katya, the moral of the story is, in Texas, they kept him in jail for 6 years even after they got the DNA evidence exonerating him. That's not right. Now, Morrison's a white guy, whiter than me, the whitest white guy I ever saw. And on 60 Minutes, he said he wasn't bitter and he had nothing against the state of Texas. Of course, they gave him $4 million when he got out of jail. But he said he wasn't bitter for losing 26 years of his life. He was like a UPS driver or worked at a grocery store, the nicest little guy you ever met. Why did the state of Texas keep him in jail for 6 more years after they got the DNA? Why, Katya? You're in Austin. This is America. Truth, justice, and the American way. They screwed this guy, Katya.
James, Texas has its own laws, and Texas has its own judges, and Texas doesn't care about the Constitution or what is going on in the freedom of right and wrong. If Texas decides, I drive a really wild car. I drive a Mercedes that's all painted with colors. I have the police constantly stopping me. And because I'm blonde and I have long hair, and I sell cigars, some of these.
You, by the way, Katya, you are the most beautiful cigar saleswoman I have ever met in my life. If my listeners, and you're getting a lot of listeners, you got 1,370 views in 4 days on YouTube for the last show you did on I-Net Radio. You're going to be up to 20,000 soon, and I hope you don't forget who took you to the big time, okay? Little Jimmy right here. If my listeners could only see your golden locks, and I mean, baby, they're golden tonight, flowing down to your shoulders, cascading over your red top, and climbing down to your bosom. No, Katya, let's not go crazy here. Climbing down to your bosom on video conferencing. You have 1 million listeners if we could only put this on video.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, Katya. Yes. Where were we? We were on DNA. Okay.
Texas has
this guy got a raw deal. My son got a raw deal. Now I'm going to tell you another story.
I'm going to get a raw deal.
There is a restaurant in Palm Beach, Florida, the richest island in the world, where I used to practice law, called 264. Patty, the owner, got in huge trouble back in 2008 because she said she would never vote for a black man to be president of the United States. And she used the N-word and told this to a newspaper. She's got to be the dumbest restaurant owner I ever heard. But at any rate, she got away with it. People still go to 264, even though she'd never vote for an N president. Okay? But anyway, one night, I'm at 264 with my accountant. His back door backed up to 264, so he was in there 24 hours a day. Don he didn't love practicing accounting. He liked sitting at the bar talking to people. We walk in, this is 15, 18 years ago, and there's an old guy having dinner by himself. We're talking. I said, "What did you do?" He goes, "I was a criminal judge in Houston, Texas." Everybody walked away from him because we didn't like justice in Texas, Katya. We didn't believe it.
Well, speaking of justice, what about the architect of Obama and the Obamacare?
Obamacare, we're going to go to that? Wow, I'm going to tell you something that you sent me. Very few people know about this, and Katya Belinsky, the rightest Russian American, the committed conservative, on the right kind of politics, we're always dreaming up new things to call you, Katya. You said that there's an overlooked provision of the Affordable Care Act, and it allows Americans to scam the system by taking advantage of a grace system. Listen to this. Under Section 156.270 of the 11,000 pages of this act, boy, I'm glad I'm not back practicing law and I have to get involved with the Affordable Care Act. I would be there for a week reading that, baby. Okay? People need to pay a premium for just 1 month, and then they can qualify for a 3-month grace period, during which if they don't pay premiums after the first month, they still get medical coverage. So you get a grace period, you pay the first month, then you say screw them on the last 2 months, and if they forget about you, it could be 4, 5, or 6 months. And the insurance must pay claims during the first month of the grace period, and during the second and third month, doctors and hospitals have to collect their unpaid bills. Any doctor who is paid by the insurance company during the last 2 months, because they're hoping that the guy's going to come up with the money, he doesn't come up with the money. They pay the doctor. Listen to this. The doctors in the hospitals have to pay back the money. Okay? They have to return the money if the guy doesn't come up with it in the last 2 or 3 months of the grace period. Wesley J. Smith, who is a fellow at the Discovery Institute of Human Exceptionalism. There's a phone call. There's a phone call from my producer, Steve Stimson, who discovered you, Katya. They have to return the money. Wesley J. Smith says it legalizes fraud. It legalizes putting your burdens on the insurance company's shoulders and never paying your premiums. The only penalty for the scammers is they have to wait till the following year to get back into Obamacare. They get back in, they play the same game. They pay the first month. They get a grace period of 2 or 3 months. The doctor gets paid. They don't pay the premium. The doctor has to pay back the money to the insurance company. And if the insurance company's computers aren't working well, they get covered for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months. This is America, Katya. I love it. I love it. This is the America that I love. You can get a free deal. Just pay attention. Read the 11,000 pages, read the fine print, and you can play this game as well as anybody, and you can game the system, okay? Now, Louis Gohmert, who is the wildest, most conservative Tea Party guy, he's the Republican congressman from Texas, he says this loophole's going to break the system and bankrupt everybody. All right, Katya, explode. You've got it now, baby. You caught them. You're the only one that figured this out. Tell the American public, and you're getting a lot of listeners on this show, tell the world why Obama's screwing everybody. What does this loophole mean?
This loophole has been in the doctors' pay for a long time. When I first started to understand how much a doctor gets paid for, let's say, cataracts. 20 years ago, it was $2,500. Then the government said, oh no, that we can't pay that much. It went to $1,500. Then it went to $800. Now a doctor, a surgeon who is in charge of your eyesight, gets $400 for cataract surgery and has to wait 8 to 9 months to get that money. Now, I don't know what the government thinks the doctor should live on, or how he lives, or how he pays for his patients, but this was astronomically terrible. So what they did was they carried it on to Obamacare. They are punishing the doctors because the doctors are going to have to pay for their own surgery. The doctors are going to have to pay for their own hospitals. Now, I don't know if the public out there understands, but doctors have to become members of a hospital. They pay hospital dues. They pay all sorts of money. They have to pay for the surgery room. They have to pay for the nurses. This is not free. Just because you go to a hospital and you get surgery, it's not free. The doctor that is your surgeon is the one who pays all the nurses that assist him. He has to pay for that surgery room to the hospital. He has to pay everything, and therefore, if you don't pay him, he's out of pocket that money. And how is he going to live?
Now, Katya, under the rule, I have to interrupt you. Under the rules of media, television, and radio, we always have an obligation as truthful and honest broadcasters to bring to the public's eye any conflict of interest which a guest may have. You were married to a doctor, weren't you?
Yes. I was married to a surgeon.
All right, so you have a stake in this argument.
I don't know if I have a stake in it, but I do know probably a lot more about it than the average person does.
Thank you, Katya. I just wanted the American public to know that you were married to an eye surgeon and you know what you're talking about.
Yes, and I want the public to know that they're very misled on the fact that doctors have money, that doctors get money where? From the air, from the government is terrible. Even before Obamacare, to pay surgeons.
And may I say, you think more of doctors than you do of President Obama.
And of lawyers.
I'm a lawyer, Katya. Watch where you're going here. I'm still a member of the Florida Bar. I may be doing radio, but I'm still a dues-paying active member of the Florida Bar. I won a lot of cases, Katya. In 2003, the year before I retired, out of 22,500 lawyers between Miami and Palm Beach, they voted me one of the top 250.
Listen, James, for me, I'm voting you the top.
Thank
not
you.
just one.
I was one of the, I lost plenty of cases, but I won a few too.
So, well, I'm just saying, trying to inform the public because they think that all doctors are rich, all doctors have money, and actually, if they looked at the statistics, the average doctor in the United States makes $65,000.
I was just going to say that. You took the word. I saw that statistic the other day on Google, 65,000 a year. But not surgeons, Katya. My best friend is Douglas Flynn Martin, the #1 brain surgeon in Florida. He's got 5,000 bottles of wine in his villa. I've been there many times. He makes more than 65,000 a year.
Well, I hope that you take me to his house when
You're
I come
coming
to visit.
here, and Katya, I make no doubt about it. We're going to Doug Martin's house, and we're drinking the whole 5,000 bottles of Cristal and Louis Lafite Rothschild. And I hate to tell the American public, but you and I have been sitting on this show drinking Pinot Noir while we're doing it. And I'll tell you why I'm not guilty. Johnny Carson used to drink scotch while he did the Tonight Show, and he was the most successful talk show host in the history of America. And he was drunk half the time. What the hell? It just gives the show a little pizzazz.
Well, I don't know about drunk or Pinot Noir, but my water is all full of Pinot Noir.
Yes, Katya, that glass looks pretty red to me, unless you're drinking blood in there. I think that's, Robert Mondavi was the national president of my fraternity at college, Phi Sigma Kappa, and you knew Mondavi.
Margaret.
Yes, you knew his wife that took him for all that money in the divorce.
I knew Mondavi, but I knew Margaret better.
He was a great man, Robert Mondavi.
Yes.
I've been to the Mondavi winery out in Sonoma or Napa or wherever it is. Yes.
It's in Napa. So getting back to genealogy and osteoporosis and brain damage and everything else.
Osteoporosis, that's where a woman's vertebrae collapse and she gets shorter and shorter and shorter.
No, that's not osteoporosis. That's something else. Osteoporosis is something that afflicts everybody, especially athletes and dancers.
I was a personal injury lawyer, Katya. I had a 40-foot Christmas tree.
Well, then, James, let me inform you that osteoporosis is, it afflicts everybody.
Can I tell you a story? The day after Thanksgiving, I had a client, and she went to the fanciest mall sort of out. It was fancy in Boca Raton, Florida, one of the fanciest places. And she sat on a bench, and a 40-foot Christmas tree fell on her. And it really did, it broke her vertebrae. It broke her back. That's what a broken back is. The vertebrae in your back get broken. And they claimed that she had osteoporosis, but that didn't fly with the jury. I got that lady a lot of money for breaking her back.
Well, that's a clinical subject for another story.
We're going to do a show on osteoporosis next time around.
All right. So anyway, I think that Obamacare is a very flawed. There is going to be a lot of fraud. And unfortunately, as I said before, the fantastic health care in America that people are experiencing now is going to be gone forever. And 1/6 of the economy is going to be controlled by the government. This is the very, very worst thing that can happen to America. And the way that the president misled the people. Now, the second thing, there's a lot of loopholes in Obamacare. The way that the Obamacare is going to be taken and how you're going to pay for it has not even been established yet. It has not even been created on the website. So all the things that are happening on Obamacare and the website failing and nobody can find out what their premium is going to be and what they're going to pay, this is all calculated by this company that they hired. It's all calculated.
Well, Katya, democracy and majority rule prevailed last week because no longer can 60 senators stand up and filibuster a bill. Now it's down to 51, honey. We got rid of the filibuster when it comes to anybody that President Obama appoints, whether it be to a court or to any federal position other than the Supreme Court. We got it down to 51 to 49, and the Democrats have taken away the Republicans' right to filibuster and keep things shut up for 60 votes. Now it's down to 51 votes, the American way. Majority rules, 51 to 49. That's democracy. What do you have to say about that, honey?
I have to say, congratulations, you are wrong again.
Thank you. You know, Katya, you keep me humble. You keep me modest.
You are very wrong, James, and let me inform you on the truth.
Thank you.
The truth is that Harry Reid and Obama in 2004, if you read or you can see the transcripts when the Republicans were in the majority and they wanted to do the same thing the Democrats did, Harry Reid said that this would change the country and it would be terrible, and so did Obama. Now, Harry Reid is the single most nuclear physicist there is in the Congress. And what he did, now that the Democrats are the majority, he decided to implement this 59%. But originally, he did not.
51%.
51%. He thought that this would be the worst thing for the country. Now, this
oh,
has
sure. Obama said it would be the worst thing back when he was, in 2009. Reid said this would be the end of the country. But now that they're on top, they've changed their tune.
Well, the unfortunate thing is, and I have sent you several articles about that were written not only by the senator, and I believe it was Senator Ness. Anyway, it's going to change the face of America.
No,
and
Senator Vitter from New Orleans, yes.
Senator, but this is going to change the face of America, and this is not what the forefathers of our country wanted. They did. We can't have a Senate that goes from one to the other. This year we have Democrats, next year we have Republicans, and they start changing the rules of the government. Then eventually Obama can make the majority of him. This whole thing with Reid and Obama has changed the face of the country. This is exactly what Hitler did. Hitler started to play with the government. And as he played with the government, it got worse and worse. We start losing our rights to our medical. We start losing our rights to education. We start losing our rights to gun control. So what is happening in the United States right now is mirroring, if you read the story about Hitler, it's mirroring what happened in Germany. So if people don't wake up and they don't realize that this man needs to be impeached, this man needs to be taken out of the government, because he's doing lawlessness. He is making up his own rules and regulations. And one day we are going to wake up and we're going to have the NSA at our doors. We're going to have the civil military taking us to the gulag because we don't want to give up our guns. We don't want to listen to Obama, and we don't want the government to control us. And the trains are going to be waiting, and they're going to take us to Colorado underneath the mountains there, where they have already made railroad tracks all over the United States, and all of the cars, the railroad cars, they're going to put us in like Hitler did and take us there and lock us out. This is a true fact. Many people have talked about this. Many people have seen this, and this is going to happen. They already have 5 football fields of electronics and computer data on us. The next thing is putting us in the railroad cars because we don't want to pay Obamacare. We don't want to salute or Highland heel to Obama. And Obama can, with the flick of his pen, change our country, change our rules, and change our Constitution.
You know, Katya, I'm going to tell you an ironic story. Today is Sunday. This show will be heard on Wednesday because your shows are going to be good for a million years. They're classics. I could play these in the years 2036. They'd be just as good as in 2013. I was speaking to Stephen Stimpson. You know who he is. He's the one that discovered you. He's the one that made you into a star. And he's a progressive and he's a liberal. And he said the exact same thing you did. He said it's going to be like Hitler. They're going to put us in cattle cars. They're going to control us. They're going to take away our brains. They're going to take us away. But he didn't blame it on Obama. He blamed it on the Koch brothers, which are your idols, the guys who run the Republican Party and the Tea Party and want to turn us all into greeters at Walmart. Okay? That's what he said, the exact same thing, but he had a little different spin on it. It's your guys that want to turn us into cattle, not Obama. What do you have to say about that? The Koch brothers, do you really think they're for the little guy? Don't you think they want all of us to be working at Walmart for $7 an hour? Don't you really?
Well, James, let me just inform you. They pay $18 an hour in North Dakota at Walmart. That is a true fact.
Well, North Dakota is different. They've discovered oil up there, and everybody makes a lot of money in North Dakota.
Right.
And you know why they get paid $18? Because they could get a job elsewhere in North Dakota for $18. Oil drillers up there are making $60, $70 an hour.
James, may I interrupt?
Katya, you can always interrupt me because it's your show. I'm the dummy sitting on the ventriloquist's lap. You're the ventriloquist.
James, America could be just as profitable as North Dakota and make by far more money than $18 an hour if Obama would let us have oil drilling and fracking and everything else. Now, let me just say...
wait, he stopped fracking? Obama stopped? I don't think that's true.
Let me finish before I lose my thought.
Thank you, Katya.
I want to say that George Soros put Obama into power, and it's George Soros who is going to put us in the gulag. He's a Hungarian who hates America and hates Americans, and he is going to put us in the gulag. So maybe the two twirly brothers
Cokes.
Yeah, that probably smoke coke, snort coke.
I doubt they use drugs, Katya. Those guys are pretty conservative.
Let's just say we got the Cokes and we got the Soroses, we got the Golda Meiers, we have the
Gaultier, T.J. Gaultier.
Yes, we got the Gaultiers, we got the Illuminatis, we got everybody.
The Gaultier wrote the transition for Obama when he became president. He told him what to do during those 3 months between the election and the inauguration.
Yes, and Soros gave $30 million for Obama. So we have people going, yes, that's a true fact.
It is true. I agree with you. But under Citizens United, the U.S. Supreme Court, you can give as much money as you want.
Then you won't be surprised that I know these things, right?
I'm not surprised. You're the smartest woman on talk radio today.
So anyway, what I want to say is that Obama, by the flick of his pen, is definitely going to change the face of America. And with this whole thing that happened last week, with this nuclear vote, that just tells us how dangerous Obama really is. He really is dangerous. And whether you agree with the Tea Party or you agree with Donald Duck, I think American people should wake up and really, really become frightened that they could be going into the gulag. They could be ending up in a concentration camp or worse, gassed underneath huge mountains in Colorado by your own government. So I think that there's enough foreigners, thank God, in America that are Russian, that are Czechoslovakian, that are Romanian, that are Indian, that are South American, that are Swahili or whatever else. There's enough foreigners in America that will not allow this to happen. Because I hate to say this, but American people are placid, they are stupid, and they really don't understand how important freedom is in this country. People like me who understand what communism is, who understand what it is to live under suppression, to constantly worry about whether you are going to be accused of something just because you said something casually to your neighbor. That's already happening in America. That's happening. Obama said, report your neighbor. James, don't look at me like that. Report your neighbor if he says something against the government. This is all over the internet. He said that when he first became into power. He said, report your neighbor.
Katya,
and you can look
we had the treason and seditious laws. We had Joe McCarthy. If you whispered anything, they put you in jail back in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s for being un-American. We even had an Un-American Affairs Committee in Congress. It was chaired by Martin Dies, D-I-E-S, from Texas. Things have gotten a lot better. You don't have to be afraid to say something anymore. When you guys were running the country, you had to be afraid.
James.
Obama freed this country.
Excuse me. Who is you guys? Who is
You're
you guys?
the Tea Party guys, the conservative guys, the Texas guys, the Ted Cruz guys.
James, if we ran the country, it would be a lot different than it is now. I believe it would be a lot different. I don't believe that the Tea Party in any manner, shape, form, or way has done anything to hurt this country. But Obamacare is a very, very huge civil rights impediment on my civil rights. This government has forced itself on my freedom. It has forced itself on my civil rights by forcing me to get Obamacare. I am supposed to be a free person.
Katya, I'm sorry, but we have come to the end of the hour. I'm sitting here. I'm going to hold it up for you. I've got so much material that we have to talk about that on Wednesday we are going to have to do the second segment of this show, because I'm going to have to debate you on some of these issues. But anyway, Katya, I want to thank you for coming on, giving us your honest, truthful, heartful, soulful opinions about what's going on in America. I may not agree with you on everything, but I will tell you one thing. You're an honest woman, and you say what's on your mind. And that's the way America was supposed to be. That's the way America was created. And you are probably the greatest American in America right now. Even though I disagree with you on some things, I love you. I want to say to all of our listeners, goodbye, Katya. Ya vas lublю. I love you.
До свидания.
i-netradio.com. i-netradio.com.